but I turned down the coaching habit. And then I placed one of my 3 best bets of my life, which is I'm going to self-publish this book, but I'm going to publish it as a professional. So I'm going to hire a good editor. I'm going to hire a designer. The designer introduced me to Page Two, who are the team that have helped me bring the rest of my books to the market. And of course, that book has, over the last 6 years, changed my life as it's sold a bunch and grown companies and given me some profile. Yeah.
I feel like there's a little bit of a parallel to that and you're getting the Rhodes Scholarship in that you had a very clear objective in your mind.
Yeah.
You went out and said, what is required to get this?
Yep.
You get the feedback and you go do it. And it wasn't enough. And then you do it again. And it wasn't enough.
Right.
And you do it again.
I hadn't made that connection, but you're right.
Yeah.
That Dave, and with all of those, I was like, look, I'm going to go for it in the best way I can. And that is sufficient success in itself. With all of the books,
define that a little bit more. That's a really interesting statement.
So,
sufficient success in itself.
With the coaching habit, the week before it kind of made its way into the world, I was like, this is a really good book. And that is all the success I could really ask for, which is all I can control, which is to write the best damn book I can. And I'm like, and I've done that. So if this doesn't work and this doesn't sell a whole bunch of copies, I'm not going to feel regret or failure around that. I have done my very best. Now I made a commitment that I was going to market this book for a year. Like, I'm going to give this a really good shot. I'm going to do all I can to bring this book to market. And that's a whole nother thing I committed to, again, without knowing the outcome. Because I could have, I was on a bazillion podcasts and articles and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, that could have all made no difference whatsoever. And it could have still just sold 50 copies. And I'm like, doesn't matter. I've made the commitment. I'm going to do it the best I can. That is now success. Commit to the process rather than the outcome.
Commit to the process rather than the outcome.
Yeah.
And boy, I can identify that. I mean, really what we're doing right now is one of those things. For me, the success in itself is that I've created something, or I'm creating something lasting for my children.
Right. Exactly.
And even if this doesn't take off, I'm okay with that.
Right.
I don't know if you're okay with it, because you probably like a little...
No,
I know you. You're such a generous guy. You would do this anyway.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of power in that. I think sometimes we hold on too tightly to outcomes rather than focusing on just doing something great.
Yeah.
I think that's so beautiful that you shared that.
There's a dance here, Dave, because it's also helpful to have ambitions.
Yes.
So I have a podcast too. It's called 2 Pages with MBS. And in the last book I published called How to Begin, I talk about my goal for it being to have 10,000 listeners per episode. Now it's been going for nearly 3 years, and it's at maybe 1,000 listeners per episode for the good episodes. There's plenty that aren't 1,000. And so part of me is like disappointed that hasn't taken off because I wanted it to do more. But then I'm like, so why do I do this? And I know why I'm doing it. It's a chance for me to become a better interviewer, and it's a chance for me to meet people who delight me and amaze me. It's like sitting down to somebody next to you at a dinner party, and you're like, oh my God, this turned out to be the best conversation I've had for ages, because you're fascinating. And I'm like, I want more of those people into my life. So I've had to figure out how to let go of the 10,000. Well, no, I've had to ask myself, do I pursue 10,000 listeners, and at what cost? Or do I recalibrate how I think about success and do that other investment of time and money into other things where the numbers matter more to me?
And what's the answer?
So I'm not going to invest in marketing for the podcast, because actually for my businesses where I have greater chance of having impact in people's lives, and I also have employees and contractors that I support, it's more important for me to grow those businesses and have financial success there So investment in marketing makes more sense for that.
Okay. But you're still going to do that project.
But I'm still doing the podcast because I know why I'm doing it, and the success is in the joy of doing it rather than in the number of listeners I have.
If you liked this video and want to listen to the full episode, go to your favorite podcast app and subscribe to the Dave Crenshaw Success Project. You can also find all the full episodes at successproject.show.